First of all, welcome. We will be recording this, and I'll be providing the link of where this recording will be available for you to recap and rewatch and post questions even after the event. It's going to be on our community, so it'll be available to you. We will be taking some questions. If you could put them into the chat or the Q&A, we'll be able to read those questions off to all of our attendees and hopefully get your answers to you. But again, if you have questions after the event, please do put them onto the community link that I'll be providing soon. All right, we're going to go ahead and while we're at the top of the hour, we'll probably wait just another moment or two for a couple of our attendees to come in. And, you know, if you have any feedback, please do provide them into the chat. We'd love to hear your feedback in case of any topics that you would like to hear in the future. We're excited about sharing with you today the business continuity management. So we're excited about that. Hey, Mark, do you feel comfortable? Go ahead and taking it away. Let's get started.
I sure do. Thank you so much, Lisa. And thanks, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Hope you're up for a really interesting and exciting discussion today about what's new in our June release of Business Continuity Management. We have a couple new really great capabilities that we made available on the ServiceNow App Store on the June 17th. One was around crisis maps and also around crisis management integration with Everbridge notifications. So we're going to get into some detail on that. But before we do, let me introduce myself. My name's Mark Kalen. I'm Director, Risk and Product Solutions here at ServiceNow. I've been here close to a year and a half. My background is 6 years as a risk and compliance practitioner at Fidelity and Deloitte & Touche. And I've spent the last 15 years building and deploying risk and compliance solutions in software. And I'm joined today by my peer in the product space, the lead principal product manager on the BCM solution. Why don't I take a minute to introduce yourself, Aswin?
Yep. Hello, everyone. My name is Aswin. I'm the product manager for business continuity management and operational resilience at ServiceNow. I've been building software products in this space, that is business continuity and operational resilience, from the past 15 years. And I've enabled multiple customers, that is small to medium to enterprise level customers, successfully implement their business continuity management solution and work with them throughout the journey. Thanks for joining us today.
Great. Thank you, Aswin. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to talk about what's going on in the market today and what we're seeing. We've never seen so much demand for continuity management, and we're seeing it driven by a number of different things, right? It started in 2020 when the pandemic hit. What that did was it surfaced a lot of gaps in BCM programs. So a lot of firms realized that either their BCM programs were maybe not as complete as they'd like, or perhaps not maintained and perhaps have stale information, or weren't executed or able to execute on their plans as they had expected. So that's raised a lot of interest in shoring up these BCM programs, and a lot of firms are in the middle of doing that now. And coming off the heels of an announcement earlier this week, ransomware has come to the forefront as well. Ann Neuberger, the Deputy National Security Advisor, issued a memo from the White House suggesting organizations prepare for ransomware and proactively take steps to prevent and minimize the impacts of ransomware if they are to be attacked or burdened by a hack, if you will. So there's some really great guidance that plays right into our BCM skills and capabilities. So it's driving a lot of buzz in the marketplace right now. And of course, supply chains have been disrupted. Recently, I was trying to replace all the appliances in my kitchen, and they're just not available. 4 to 6 month wait, a 4 to 6 week wait for a refrigerator, for example. So supply chains disrupted around the world. And of course, as always, we have evolving regulations to comply with as well. Before we get into the business continuity details, I just wanted to give you an overview and level set of the overall integrated risk management capabilities available through ServiceNow. At the very center, I have business continuity and operational resilience, but those are only as effective as the program itself, which is critically dependent on vendors, obviously. So we have vendor risk capabilities, and operational risk is also essential, managing through your operational risk. As you can see, we have other capabilities here as well, and they are all supported on the Now platform with these capabilities you see below and features that reside across all the ServiceNow risk management capabilities. Now, if we drill down to the next layer of detail, we get into business continuity management. And as you're all aware, as many of you are using or BCM practitioners and using ServiceNow solutions here, 4 primary use cases around business impact analysis, business continuity planning, exercise and recovery, and then finally, crisis management. And as we get into the demonstration, you're going to see how these new features and functions that we just brought to market next week are helping across all 4 of these use cases in different ways. So what is it in the June release? What did we actually bring to market? 2 really exciting things. First, Crisis Map. This is the ability to have alert feeds automatically overlaid into a mapping mechanism, so you can map where there are crises, whether they are weather related, whether they are technology related, or whatever's causing that crisis. And you can pinpoint those areas on a map, whether it's an earthquake, and you can draw a perimeter and see which of your facilities or which of your vendors or IT assets may be within a certain perimeter of where the disruption's occurring. So super exciting to be able to do that and to visually display that regardless of location around the world. And then second, we've partnered with the industry leader in crisis communications, Everbridge, and we've integrated our solution with their notification mechanisms. So it provides a panoply of options for getting your message out and managing those communications with your internal as well as your external key stakeholders. Now, before we get into the demo, I just wanted to point out some additional resources if you're interested in going a little bit beyond today's presentation. First, I'd call your attention to the item on the right, which is Gartner BCM Market Guide. So ServiceNow is for the first time included in here, and they've done a great review. So if you'd like to get a copy of that, by all means, feel free to access the link once you have access to this deck and download it. And then we have some standard materials like a solution brief and a couple white papers that may be of interest. So with that said, let's take no more delays and get started with the meat of the discussion today, the demo. So with that, why don't I hand it over to you, Aswin, if you'd like to take it away.
Thanks, Mark. Let me share my screen. And can you confirm you can see my screen?
Yes, I see it.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everyone. So we are going to look at 3 different areas where we have come up with enhancements, and that's generally available today. It's live on the ServiceNow's application store. The first one is the business impact analysis, right? So to demonstrate that, what I have done here is I have gone into the application navigator and I've typed in process, right? And I clicked on business process, which is part of our common services data model, or the CMDB, you can call it. And then I am going to pick up one of the business processes from the list, right? So here, the business process owner has defined accounts receivable as my business process. This is what me and my team are going to be working on everyday basis. I can provide different details around that. And I can also say my team depends on these different data centers, web servers, let's say business applications as well, right? These are the different things that we need in order to complete our day-to-day activities. So let's take example of business applications for today. There is a software called Skype, very similar to what we are doing today, and a remote web conferencing tool, right? It could be Visual C++ or WebSphere application server. And this can go n level deep. So for those who are familiar with ServiceNow's dependency views, you would be able to see the business process is being dependent on these different things, right? So the business process is right at the top, and then you can start seeing this is a business application. If the application is being hosted on one of the web servers or one of the data centers, you would start seeing those dependencies as well. So this is a visual representation of the data that we saw here. That is, these are the dependencies. Without these, the operations would not be normal, right? Let's say, for example, some of these applications are taken down, then chances are that this particular business process is not 100% delivered as on a business as usual day. The same can be looked at from the business impact analysis. Now look, we'll switch to business impact analysis view. I've picked up the same business process, that is accounts receivable. In order to reuse the data that's already captured in the CMDB, we have integrated with that. So it becomes easier for you guys to reuse the data that's already there, that could have been identified by the discovery capability of ServiceNow or manually entered into the system, or from your asset management application, or any of these imports that you could do from external systems, etc. Once that is in the CMDB, during the business impact analysis, the users can simply say, in the dependency assessment tab, you can go ahead and click on add dependencies, right? You can see there are 3 things that have got added here from the CMDB. Let me go into applications. We were looking at these 3, right? So you can see that these 3 have been pulled in from the CMDB, and the relationship source is tagged as CMDB. Now, some of our customers might be using information from the CMDB directly and maintain that as the single source of truth, or the primary source where we are maintaining all the CIs and the interdependencies. They would be able to use the simple application, just click on this button and then get that in. We also have some of our customers who want to maintain these relationships within the business continuity management application. So for them, what we have done is we have maintained the capability that we had already released. That is, click on add new button. I can go into all the records. I can start viewing, for example, Adobe Acrobat or any of the software applications, right? I can pick 3 or 4 of them and say add. Once I have added these dependencies or applications, you can start seeing that these have got added to the same list as the ones that have the CMDB information. But here in this case, it is tagged as the relationship source is BCM, because this was manually added by the user who's doing the BIA within the BCM application. So this can be done, and you can also have other relationships like vendors or suppliers. For example, if there is a supplier disruption, how are we going to handle it? You can plan for that, right? For that, first step is to identify what are the suppliers or who are the suppliers you're dependent on. That can be added manually as well. So it can be done within the BCM application, right? Or you could pull it in from, for example, like if it is a CI, you'll be able to pull it in from the CMDB, or it can be a combination of these things. So this is a new functionality that we have released in this week. As I said, this is already live and it's available generally for you guys to download and start using it in the store. We also introduced the technical impact analysis capability as part of the business impact analysis itself, right? So here I have opened up an technical impact analysis template. You can see that there is an RTO that is getting calculated. And apart from the RTO, there's also an RPO assessment that can be done. So the RTO assessment is done based on, in this case, revenue and legal impacts. So this doesn't have a cap size. You can add n number of categories here, and you can have multiple questions under each category. Based on the answers that the user provides, the RTO is calculated, the recovery time objective is calculated. Similarly, you can also enable the RPO section, where in this case, I have modeled the RPO questions as the value of the data. How valuable is the data is the question that's posted to the user. The user can provide, let's say, for example, this particular data center, in this case, New York City data center has financial records, right? It's highly valuable. You can also ask them for questions like, how frequently does the data change in this particular application or this particular server? The user can provide if it is going to be changing in real time, or let's say, for example, that is something that changes only once in a month, right? Based on these answers, we can configure the logic to come up with your RPO, right? Because the data is highly valuable and it changes frequently. In this case, the system is suggesting it has to be backed up immediately or in real time. And based on the RTO and RPO, the application or the data center is also classified as a recovery tier. In this case, I have used mission critical, business important, or non-essential. You guys can use it as tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or n number of tiers can be configured as well. So these are the capabilities in business impact analysis that we have introduced in this release. If you have any questions, please add them to the chat channel and then we can address them there. The next one is around crisis management and situational awareness, right? So let's look at what is the situational awareness capability that we have introduced in this release first. So we have integrated with two sources. One is called GDAC, that is Global Disaster Alerting Center, and National Weather Service. These two sources are shipped out of the box, but it doesn't stop you from integrating or subscribing to other sources of information who provide threat alerts globally, right? So here, what GDACs and National Weather Services do is they provide you events that are upcoming or ongoing, and they tell you that these are extreme events that are happening around the globe, and they provide more information about what is the impacted area and what kind of event is this. So it can be something like a drought. It could be a flood situation, for example, right? It could be an earthquake that's happening somewhere in the world, etc. It can also be extreme weather conditions like special weather statements that are getting released by the National Weather Service in this case. Along with the information that you see here, the same information, that is each card is an event in itself, and each card or the event is plotted on the map to provide you a visual guidance of where this event is expected to happen. Now, all right, so these are the events that are happening around the world. What does that mean to us, right? As crisis manager or a business continuity manager, how is that impacting our organization? So for that, what we have done here is we have introduced the capability for you to go and plot your office locations, for example, right? You can look at where are my office locations and where are my operations carried out from today. So for example, there are 198 people sitting and working out of this particular office. These are the different office locations that we have today. You can also plot your data centers. For example, these are the critical data centers around the globe. And these are my suppliers, right? We can also plot these suppliers here. So what you're seeing in this as assets, the list is only an indicative list. As long as this information is sitting on top of ServiceNow's platform, we will be able to pick that up and then plot it on this map for you. So we saw that there are events happening and we know where our operations are. Now it makes it easier for us to correlate which of these buildings or which of these office locations are going to be in the line of impact because of a particular event, right? Let me pick one of these items and we can drill deeper into it. So I'm going to pick one of this. So you see that there is an impacted area. This comes from the service provider, that is the National Weather Alert Service, right? So they provide that particular area and say, this is the impacted, this is the center of that particular event, and this is the impacted area. Now we can see that there are 3 office locations within that impacted area. You can click the assets at risk, for example, and view which are these office buildings that are getting impacted and what is their latitude, longitude, etc. You will also be able to double click, view the details of this office locations. You can see who are the managers or the point of contact in each one of these locations, right? You'd be able to identify who those are, and we can look at the next steps. But before we get into the next steps, I wanted to tell you, you would also be able to edit this particular impact area. Let's say, for example, let's make it into an custom shape, right? I will be able to change the impact area of any of this, and I can make that my area of interest. For example, we are calling it as a geofence. You'll be able to save that. Anytime there is an operations that are getting added within this area, or if there are people, for example, if you have employee data along with these getting plotted on the map, as and when there are people moving into this area, you will be alerted on your mobile phone. That is, the alert is sent via SMS by these service providers, and based on that, you would be able to take a call on what should be the next steps. All right, so we said these are the events, these are the assets at risk. Now, what can we do about it, right? How does the tool help us address this particular situation? Let's look at that. So there are some suggested actions for me by the tool. The first one is to notify the stakeholders, right? So when I say notify, the system allows me to connect with point of contacts. This is based on the information that is collected in the CMDB for these three locations or the facilities that we just saw, that is these three, right? I'll be able to connect with all the point of contacts for all the assets, or I can also, in addition, add individual users who needs to be connected with during this particular situation, right? I'll be able to select the audience, that is the target audience, and then say click next. I'll be able to specify the subject for that email that needs to be sent out to them. In this case, it is defaulted to the header of that particular event. We just pick that up and default it to that, but the users are welcome to always go ahead and change the subject as well. So in the email, you would be able to embed a survey link. It can be created and parked as a template in ServiceNow's platform. You could ask questions like how many employees are impacted. Let's say you could ask questions like, are there critical infrastructure in the location, etc., right? And I can simply send the notification. The notification is sent. You can see the action is executed via email, and this doesn't need any integration with external tools who are going to propagate this email to your point of contacts or stakeholders. This is completely managed within ServiceNow's platform. So this sends out an email message, but we can also configure this to be sending out a push notification for your mobile application. That is the ServiceNow's Now application that's available on the stores, app stores, right? It can send out a push notification to those mobile applications as well. That can be easily configured. Once I have sent this notification, I would be able to track the responses as well from the response tasks. Now, if the users or the stakeholders provide you a feedback saying there are multiple employees who are getting impacted, how are we going to handle that? So we have the capability to declare a crisis event in business continuity management right here, based on the impact analysis done by the people on the floor, people who are managing these facilities. Based on their response, you can go ahead and say declare a crisis, right? This also, again, the short description is picked up from the event itself. We'll be able to declare BCM crisis based on the impact and event details, right? So I'll be able to type in a description for that crisis and then say next. So here it gives me an option to select what are the things that are going to be impacted. What do I call out as impacted items? It can be locations, data centers, it can be suppliers, any of this. So in this case, we have only locations. We can go ahead and say start crisis. So that actually triggers an crisis event in business continuity management application. And you can start seeing that the action that you have taken has been added to this. And then the state is currently pending. This goes into a queue where the business continuity managers or the BCM champions will be able to start adding or activating plans that are related to this particular event and these three locations, for example. Let me click into this and then we can get into the details of that. So at any point in time, the BCM managers can click on that, get into the details, start viewing this, and then you can see these are the three locations that have got impacted, right? I can add plans that are related to that or from the whole list that we have. We can add the plans here, and we can say this plan is supposed to be activated and the plan is pending still. When we say start event, this will move into open, and you can start tracking the particular plan and the progress of recovery from right here. So this is the crisis event flow, how the situational awareness or the situational intelligence can be correlated with your critical assets on the map. For example, just doing a quick recap, how the situational awareness or situational intelligence can be correlated with your operations on the map, and then how you can set up a geo fence for yourself, saying if you are responsible for a particular area, you can just track that in detail. Interestingly, there's also one more functionality that I would like to walk you guys by. This is called alert rules, right? So let me just open that. Okay. Alert if event is in. So you can set up certain rules in the application, where in this case, I'm going to say, alert me only if the event is within 50 miles of my operations, right? And I'm saying you should be setting up the conditions for that. Here I'm saying that there should be at least one resource that is getting impacted, and the impact radius, for example, is within 50 miles, right? I can just set this up, update this. What this would do is, sorry, here. So you're seeing that the events are called out across the globe, right? So for example, in this case, this is nothing but noise for me, right? I don't have any operations around this, and this event is not impacting me or my business and my teammates. So I don't have to get this flagged up in my dashboard. So based on the rule that we have set, the alerts will get filtered out only if there is an event that is happening within 50 miles of radius from a particular resource that is getting impacted. Only those will get highlighted here on the dashboard. The rest of the events are filtered out, and they are available in a separate list. They don't have to come up in transactional data where we want to be managing these on a daily basis, right? So those can be filtered out as well. All right, so now we have raised the crisis event, and that is with the crisis manager now. Let's say this is the crisis event that we raised. We know these are the impacted items. These are the plans available for that. Now, we also introduced a capability called emergency notifications. This is for emergency responses, and during or before and after a crisis event, you would be able to communicate with your team effectively, right? So we have integrated with the service provider called Everbridge for this. Via the integration, we provide the capability for you guys to go ahead and communicate with your employees and stakeholders via multiple channels. In this case, I just clicked on new notification, right? And I'm going to pick up an already stored template. This is a predefined template that's been approved and stored in the system. I'll be able to get to that and select the template. I can also provide an name for the notification that me and my team can use for tracking and monitoring in the future, right? I can add any attachments that needs to go along with this. As if I am sending an email, this would be the attachments along with that email. I can also provide a description for that notification. These are all internal for the BCM team. We can choose individual contacts who should get this particular notification, right? It can be individual people or group of users. So now these contacts and groups are coming from ServiceNow's platform. That is our SIS users and SIS groups. You can request for an acknowledgement from your users. And in this case, because this was a predefined template, you're seeing that information is already pre-filled. You can see these are the channels with which we can communicate to our employees and stakeholders, like email, personal email, SMS, phone, etc. If needed, we can also add additional channels. For example, these came from the template that we had predefined and stored, but we can make edits to that information as well. So for example, I'm adding pager as an additional channel to send out this particular communication. You can see there's a subject. that will be used for the email communication. The message body for your email, this can be added. There can be a footer note that can be added to the email, and the SMS text. So if we are making phone calls, the message body, the text in this particular field will be converted to speech, and that will be played in a loop for your end users, those that is these people and people who are part of this particular group. Once we have filled in all of this information, all you need to do is click on send. Basically, we are in communicating with Everbridge behind the scene using a secured layer, using the APIs that they have exposed. So we'll be communicating with Everbridge. They will propagate this message using these different channels to these people and collect their responses, and the responses will be available within ServiceNow's business continuity management application for you to track. For example, in this case, this is still in progress because the messages are being sent out to those people as and when they get it, and then when they start responding back, you can start seeing how many people have acknowledged it, how many people are still not reachable, and you can take the next set of actions that needs to be done. As a follow-up, you can send out additional notifications. For example, if the employee is not reachable, you can send a notification to the next of kin. It could be a spouse and a sibling, parents, friends, whatever that is. Somehow get the message passed on to the people saying there is extreme weather conditions in your location and you're advised not to enter the office location itself, right? So based on the alert that we just saw, which we converted into a particular crisis event, right? So these are the new functionality that we have introduced in June 2021. This is part of our Quebec release. This is compatible with the Quebec version of the platform. Any questions so far, guys?
Nothing's coming, Aswin.
All right. So this is what we had planned for you guys for today. If you guys want to see any other functionality, if you want to do a deep dive on any of the other things, please do let us know. We are happy to get on another call and we could walk you guys by those as well. Thank you.
Great demonstration, Aswin. And I would just echo Ashwin's sentiment. We're here to help make you successful. So anything you need, any questions, any follow-ups, we're happy to help out. So please, by all means, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you again for your time and attention today. We enjoyed presenting to you and hope you you have a great summer and enjoy the release features. Thank you.